I said, actions speak louder than words. I said, Donald Trump may have said some bad words, but Bill Clinton raped me and Hillary Clinton threatened me. There's no comparison.
Wow. So she's an evil person, although they tried to dress her up, put lipstick on a pig. But some of the things I have heard, I mean, I'm not saying she's a pig now. Like, don't start tweeting me. That I call her. She's not a pig. But having
together, we will make America strong again. We will make America healthy again.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another podcast of magAMedia.org. I'm your host, Rob Harper, and my co-host is Andy. How are you, Andrew?
I'm doing good.
Also known as Small Town Andrew on Twitter. And our guest today is Juanita Broaddrick. Juanita is a former nursing home administrator. She is also active in the conservative movement, and she is a supporter of our President Donald Trump. Juanita is also someone who could tell us what the real Me Too movement is about, as in 1978, Juanita was attacked by former President Bill Clinton. At the time, many people didn't listen to Juanita. And it's interesting now how all these years later, they're pushing up accusations of previous women who have been attacked. But when it comes to Juanita, the liberal media seems to be completely silent. How are you, Juanita?
Oh, I'm doing fine, Rob. Nice to be with you.
Yeah, so did I capture the essence as to what is happening in today's society as far as the Me Too movement and how they almost just like shut you down?
Oh, yeah. The Me Too movement wants nothing to do with you if you are a Clinton victim. I mean, we knew that right in the beginning. It's been very evident. And back when Time magazine came out with the People of the Year, the Person of the Year, they called me. In fact, the lady that called me was Charlotte Alter. She's Jonathan Alter's daughter. She works for Time. And asked me if I would be interested in being in an article that they were doing for Me Too. And I told her I wasn't part of Me Too. Me Too had never recognized any of us, and I didn't really feel comfortable in doing it. But she kept badgering me and said, well, would you just give a comment in support of Me Too? And I thought, well, sure, I can do that. Even though they didn't help us, they did help a lot of people,
Right.
And so I submitted my comment to her. And then lo and behold, they end up Time Person of the Year. So I thought, well, that's sort of exciting. So I went to the article to see my comments.
Right.
They weren't there.
But
I called Charlotte. I said, I don't understand. You bugged me for days wanting me to submit a comment, and they're not there. And she replied, well, there were just so many that we had to choose from.
Really?
Yes.
And I want our viewers to recognize and to understand is that we're just not trying to rehash something that happened in the past, but more so to put it into context, because what we see right now is that there is a movement to silence the voice of conservatives, especially when they're not saying what the liberal mainstream media wants them to say or the Democratic Party wants them to say. And again, we look at your situation and how they try to silence you and almost just shut you down completely. And here you have a notable magazine calling you up, badgering you, wanting you to give comment. Once you give the comment is nowhere to be found. Right. Once again, trying to silence you. And if liberals are so serious about Me Too and victims and believing women, they should believe not only the liberal women, but also conservative women. Now, I don't know if you identified yourself as being a conservative back in 1978, but it really doesn't matter.
No, I was a Democrat.
Okay, there you go. You were a Democrat.
I wasn't political. I was just helping volunteer in Bill Clinton's gubernatorial campaign.
Right.
I wasn't really much of anything.
Right. So, Juanita, allow me to ask you this, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners and readers and viewers are wondering the same thing. How did you survive? To this point, and hearing the things that they're saying about you over and over again. You were savagely attacked. He bit your lip. as the story goes, and told you to put ice on it. When you see Bill Clinton and his wife now, what goes through your mind?
Oh my goodness, it was so hard for so many years. The minute they would come on TV, it was just like, it just brought back all the horror of what I went through that day, and I'd have to switch it. I mean, and then finally got used to not watching much TV during the news hour. You know, mostly they were on. So yeah, it was bad. I had panic attacks but I got through it. You know, I'm one of the lucky ones.
Right.
And I can remember the months that followed the rape and how I just absolutely had to put one foot in front of the other. Right. It was horrific what I had to go through. But I had a business to run. I owned the business.
Right.
And I had a 9-year-old child, and I had to go on. And work was my therapy. People say, well, how did you become so successful? And it was work. I was just always a very industrious person. Right. And this nursing home just meant the world to me. Right. So I worked myself to death to try to forget.
So go ahead. I'm sorry, Andy.
I was just going to say, during the Me Too era, we seen, at the height of it, Blasey Ford come out against Judge Kavanaugh. And the left was hashtagging Believe All Victims. You had senators like Dick Durbin and Dianne Feinstein saying that you should believe all victims. Did you ever hear an apology from them after the Kavanaugh thing and they had changed their tune?
Oh, no.
Bill Clinton impeachment?
Not at all. In fact, I was outside the Dirksen building all during that hearing, hoping that I could get in. The Women for Trump had brought me there, hopefully to get me inside and have a seat, but that didn't happen. And I was doing all these interviews outside the Dirksen building. And I remember one of these women came up behind to get into the camera. And she had this big sign up, Believe All Women. And I just turned around during the interview and I said, do you believe me? And she said, well, who are you? And I said, I'm Juanita Broaddrick. And she walked away.
Wow. Interesting. It's Believe All Women, again, when they're liberals.
For Hillary Clinton are saying that.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, my thing that I was telling the people standing outside when I could get an audience was, I was waiting there for an apology from Dick Durbin or Dianne Feinstein or any of the senators or congressional members that were present and active during the impeachment of Bill Clinton.
Right.
All Democrat congressmen refused to read my deposition with Ken Starr. Republicans read it, but Democrats wanted nothing to do. Nothing.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Juanita, you were silent for so many years about what Bill Clinton did to you, and 1998 you finally went on Dateline NBC and told the world. I believe you're Jane Doe number 5 in the Paula Jones case.
Yes.
Where you would first probably told to a jury. What was the fallout after you went on Dateline NBC?
Well, before I went on Dateline NBC, people say, oh, you were so brave. You came out and you did all this. I was not brave. I was outed by the Paula Jones suit. I would never have come out on my own. I was not that brave.
Really?
Many things have happened since that time, but I just don't consider myself brave. I was outed by that suit when 2 investigators showed up on my front porch one day. In fact, their names was Rick and Beverly Lambert. They were investigators for the Paula Jones attorneys, and they are the parents of Miranda Lambert, the country singer. When she was a little girl, they had this investigative firm. But anyway, they came to my porch representing Paula Jones and saying, we want you to come forward. We've heard this. And I stood there and I said things that I shouldn't have. I more or less verified, yes, this had happened, but don't look at me. I see what's happened to all the women, and I do not want into this. I will not come to your deposition. Well, of course, I had to come to it, but they recorded my message. They recorded my words that day.
Mhm.
So when I went to the Paula Jones deposition, I said nothing had happened. I was so angry
Right.
that they had brought me there. And I said nothing had happened. And I denied everything. And when I left that deposition, I remember feeling victorious. You know, I thought, well, that's just great. I showed them, don't try to involve somebody in your project, in your lawsuit. And then her attorneys took that recording and sent it to Ken Starr. So that's how I ended up, in the headlights of Ken Starr.
Mm.
Did Dateline really air that interview after Bill Clinton had already been impeached and stuff
Yes.
before it?
After the vote, he'd been impeached,
Mhm.
but that was why I did it. I felt the urgency. I felt the necessity to come forward because I'd already been outed by Ken Starr and Paula Jones, and the impeachment was going on. And I was told by NBC, let's do this. You know, let's go on the air during the impeachment. They came to my home on the 10th of January, 1999. Told me it would run. On the 20th, and told me that it would run on the 29th. And of course, we all know it didn't run for 7 more weeks, opposite the Grammys.
Mm.
Yeah. But Andy Lack, who was the director of NBC News at that time, and Bill Clinton were, just like this.
Right.
NBC did not want to be the ones responsible for removing a president from office. They just didn't want anything to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And if they'd aired this, it might have.
Right.
Of course, for all the details of what happened with her and Bill Clinton, you can check out Juanita's book, You Better Put Some Ice on That. It's on Amazon with a 5-star rating. You can get it within a day if you order it with Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
So, Juanita, when you look at and see what's happening to the current president, what do you have to say, well, especially with Nancy Pelosi and the way they're saying that she's a hero and she's powerful and she's this, whereas if we look at your story, you're definitely someone who is, you said you don't see yourself as a hero, but someone who's brave, who stood up. And what she's doing, it's like, are you serious? I mean, the hate that they have for this president who has done nothing but try to do the right thing. What are your thoughts?
Oh, well, if you read my Twitter, you'd know.
Oh, yes. Oh, I read your Twitter.
I get so angry, just like today, lying, standing there in front of Congress in the Senate and lying. I'm amazed that people can't see through her. Well, we do.
Right.
We do.
Right.
But all of the people that think that she's so great cannot see that this woman is standing there lying, trying to undo the election of 2016. That's all it is, and we know that.
Right. That's completely what it is. I mean, and like you said, she's standing there, she's lying, they're saying she's great. And I wonder sometimes that they know she's lying. We know that she's lying, but they don't care because they're using her as the vehicle to get rid of a duly elected president.
I do not understand the hate for this man unless it's because he's not one of them.
Yep.
He came in to run our government like a good businessman. And They weren't used to that. They were used to all the corruption and all these little dollars going everywhere. That's our tax money.
Right.
And they just can't imagine that he's for America. He's for us, and he's not for them.
Right. They're not used to a president who's able to go, a person who's going in, who's not a politician. He's calling balls and strikes. He's no holds barred. And this all happened within his first term, the first 3 years. Look at the change he's brought in America, making America great again.
I know. It's absolutely amazing. It's unbelievable that they cannot accept the progress of this man and what he's done. Well, those rallies, I get so much good out of those rallies. I've only been to one,
Okay.
and absolutely loved it.
Right.
But the rallies just lift and boost the people that follow President Trump. They just boost, even though we're not there, we are so boosted by those.
It's phenomenal. I think Andy and Melissa, they have gone to several of the Trump rallies as well, and they've reported on it. And they've said that the energy that's there is unbelievable.
It is. It is. I adore it, and I just adore this man. I adore his wife. I adore his family, and
Right.
I adore what he's doing for America.
Can you imagine had Hillary been elected president?
Oh my God, I can't imagine my life. I just remember when he was elected, and the biggest weight in the world was lifted off of my shoulders.
Right.
It was phenomenal.
Juanita, what was the process like? We seen the Access Hollywood tape leaked about President Trump, just words, what he was saying. And then the debate was coming up, and President Trump actually, I believe, gave you a call, and you showed up for the press conference.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of counter and say that Bill Clinton's actually molested women. What they were accusing Trump of was just words.
Yeah.
How did he contact you, and did you have any reservations about showing up, or did you know right away?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I had just done a big interview in Washington, D.C. at the old Watergate. It was Kathleen Willey and Paula Jones and myself. And we had done this big interview for Steve Bannon, for his people at Breitbart, Aaron Klein. And we'd finished it, and I was on a plane going home. And I get this call on my cell phone. I hadn't turned it off yet. And it was Steve's people saying, "Can you be at the debate tomorrow night? The president would like to have you there as his guest." And I thought, no, it's 5:00 in the evening, and I'm on my way back home to Arkansas. And I said, he said, "Well, the other ladies are being called right now, and we'd sure like for you to be there." And I said, "I've got a layover in Dallas. I'll call you when I get there." First person I called was my son. He's an attorney. "Oh, Mom, you can't go to that. Did you hear that Hollywood Access tape?" And I said, "Did you see my tweet?" Because I was really into tweeting a bit. And I said, "Did you?" And he said, "No, I didn't." I said, "Well, here's what it said. And here's what I said to all those journalists and people that interviewed us that day that we gave statements to. I said, actions speak louder than words. I said, Donald Trump may have said some bad words, but Bill Clinton raped me and Hillary Clinton threatened me. There's no comparison."
Wow. So she's seems to be, she's an evil person. Although they tried to dress her up, put lipstick on a pig, but some of the things I have heard, I mean, I'm not saying she's a pig now, right? Don't start tweeting me. Don't I call she's not a pig. But, I lived in Arkansas, and I know that, I mean, without a doubt, she's a smart woman. So when she said that she didn't know that she had her emails on her server, she was doing this, I'm like, that's all BS. It's complete BS. This woman is not dumb. She's very smart. And I think that she wears the pants in that house. So I'm like, I don't buy it at all. She knows what she's doing, and she's very calculating. So when you said she threatened you, shook your head, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, she's just an absolute evil woman. People have asked me in interviews, who do you hate the most, Bill or Hillary? And I said, it's pretty even until I think about what Hillary could have done, what she could have done decades ago, and left that sorry so-and-so and started to stand up for women. She didn't do that. Right. And she could have probably saved a lot of women's pain and sorrow that they had to go through from Bill Clinton, because he is an actual serial sexual predator. And we all know this. Right. But yes, she wears the pants in that family.
Juanita, we've all heard about the Clintons, and the Clinton body count is a real hashtag. Were you concerned about your safety all those years?
Oh, I always was. especially when it came out who Jane Doe number 5 was.
Right.
I had people following me all the time, wanting to get. I used to have. I've moved to Fort Smith now, but I used to have a large acreage of about 40 acres and a big home on a hilltop. But I did have a gate. You had to know the combination to get in. But I remember waking up one morning, and the whole front acreage down on the road was cameras and cars. I mean, there at my place. And that went on for probably a couple of weeks, and then it died down. But I was always looking over my shoulder. I mean, it was absolutely constant. But I think now, I'm old. I'm 77, and I'm older, and I'm not afraid anymore.
Really?
I'm just not afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Were you surprised that Bill Clinton is still being brought up in sexual misconduct? He's linked to Jeffrey Epstein. He was photographed with that Ghislaine Maxwell, who was in charge of the Epstein pedophile ring. Have you been following the Epstein case at all?
Oh, yeah, I keep tabs on that because I still am extremely upset that Amy Robach with ABC, you remember the undercover video that they did of saying, we had everything. We had Clinton. And then she goes on to say something. Well, I want to know what in the heck she meant by we had Clinton. They've never explained. Congress is asking for them to explain what they meant by this, and they haven't answered. I want to know, and I wonder if any young girls will come forward blaming him for rape or sexual attacks, unwanted sexual attacks. I just don't know. Listen, I've gone for 4 decades thinking, oh, this is it. This is the gotcha moment.
Right.
Never happened.
It seems as though that they always protect these predators. They protect people, especially when they're on the left, no matter what anyone says. Like I say, they try to silence you. So when the election year comes around, how do you feel? You have apprehension when, you see he or Hillary and even Chelsea thinking about possibly making a run for public office. What are your thoughts when you hear these people? Because you know that inevitably your name will be brought up again.
Oh, yeah, they're dead in the water. I don't know how anybody that can even, and I'm not saying anything against you, Rob, but it's just, they're not relevant when it comes to holding office.
Right.
They're no longer relevant whatsoever. And I truly believe even the Democrats know that. Did you see in 2018 when Judy Woodruff was interviewing James Patterson and Bill Clinton, and she's talking to him about these things that have happened in his past?
Right.
And he turns to her and says, Judy, the norms have changed about what you can do to somebody against their will. I could have fallen out of the chair.
Right. I mean,
nobody hung on that.
Right. She didn't even follow up when he said that. I thought, wait a minute, did he just say that? The norms have changed as to what you can do to someone? Like,
yes. And I've repeated it several times on Twitter, but
even now, no one says anything about it. It was almost as if though he was admitting that, hey, I did something very wrong.
Exactly. Duh. Where are you?
Right. And me too. They completely look the other way. It's like, oh, okay, let's focus on something else.
To this day, the left-wing media will only talk about Monica Lewinsky, who is consensual, and not any of his multiple victims that have came out that have been violent rape victims like Juanita and others.
Wow. Yeah. And I have a certain respect for Monica, but it only goes so far.
Right.
I am very sorry for what she went through as a child. To me, 20, 21 years old with the President of the United States, that's a child. That's abuse. But nowadays, and to know that she voted for Hillary after knowing what Hillary did to her, that's ignorance. And for her not standing up for the other Clinton victims, it's hurtful.
Yeah. I would imagine so. So looking ahead, how do you see the election turning out?
Oh, I get slammed on Twitter when I say it's going to be a landslide, but I say it's a guarded landslide.
Right.
It'll be a landslide if we keep up everything that we're doing.
Exactly.
I feel like he will win, but don't tell anybody.
Well, you know, I feel the same way, and I say all the time, and we say on magAMedia.org that, you know, don't rest on your laurels, because the Democrats are in full force. They will cheat and lie. Look at what they're doing now. They lied about the whole Russia collusion. They're lying about him withholding money from Ukraine. And in essence, when you think about it, they're impeaching him because they don't want him to do his constitutional duties as the president.
Right.
Like, folks, listen to this. So if they will go that far to do that, when it's time for the election, they're going to find everybody they can, dead or alive, to vote so that they could steal this election. Yes, he might win by a landslide, but I'm telling you, they aren't going to give up without a fight. They're not going to give up.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Rob. It's going to be a hard fight. In my heart, I feel like he'll win. My concern is the House. You know,
Right. Yep.
I've got to get the House back.
Right.
No doubt. And of course, retain the Senate and maybe add a couple of seats.
Right.
You see all these things about the senators and representatives that are going to retire that
Right.
are good Republicans. That worries me.
Yeah, and rightfully so, because if the Democrats keep the House, they will impeach him yet again and again and again. They're not going to stop. I mean, as Nancy Pelosi said, he's impeached for life. And that's all they want. They know that they can't get him out. If Mitt Romney stands strong, Susan Murkowski and Michelle Murkowski and Susan Collins, if they stand strong. But the fact that he was impeached, I wish there were a way that they could just dismiss this entire thing and say he was never impeached because it was a ruse. It was a lie. They tried to overthrow the government. And I hope John Durham, when he comes out with his findings, takes us a little closer to see that, hey, the entire establishment was corrupt. They had it in for Donald Trump, President Trump, from day one, and Hillary was a part of it. And I wouldn't at all be surprised, God rest his soul, John McCain wasn't part of it also.
Oh, well, we know that he was, Rob.
Yeah.
I mean, we have proof of that now from his emails and all this other stuff that has come up. We know that he was a huge part of it.
Right.
It's so disturbing. You know, I just want them to leave him alone. But I'm so afraid. I want McConnell to get up there and say, okay, all in favor to dismiss.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, and all these other people say, no, we want a trial. No, we don't.
No.
We want this to be over with.
Yep.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. And we want to thank Juanita for her time with us today. We really, really appreciate it. And check back on magAMedia.org for interviews. Check out Juanita's book. You better put some ice on that on Amazon. And check out her Twitter account. She's always got a lot to say.
Absolutely.
And check out Rob at RobJH1 on Twitter. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.